So today we are very fortunate to have the one and only Brian Fogarty with us. Everyone's been looking forward to this and listening to what Brian's got to say. Myself and Brian have known each other quite a long time, so I'm looking forward to having this conversation and chat because it's something that we've been threatening to do for quite a long time and not got round to doing it, but funnily enough, we've got a little bit more time on our hands, pal, to get this done. So I think realistically, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself. So do you want to tell, for those people who, the few people who might not know who you are locally, but those watching this, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, mate. It's nice to do this and have a catch up. I'm not seeing you for a couple of weeks now, have I? She's not very often we do that. No. I've seen you a lot lately. I'm Brian Fogarty. Currently UK IronMan champion. I run Fogarty's Insurance, sell insurance of all types. Full-time dad, and just taking this Ironman journey as far as I can go.
What you've missed out, and what everyone knows, that's quite modest. He's quite a very, very good athlete, and he runs a very successful business. And for those of you that have done an Ironman or are considering one, the kind of the challenges it faces, but also the time that needs to go in. So what's I personally find is exciting about Brian, if he won't big himself up, is the fact of what he's achieved and what he does achieve and the times he posts, while, like you say, having a little one that may make her appearance during this interview, which is fantastic. And
she's just going to sleep, actually.
Okay. See how long that lasts. Oh, brilliant. Listening to me, that. And then and then also, like you say, running your business with your brothers, which is, that family business with your sister as well, which is all very, very fantastic. So, like I say, privileged to have you. But I guess the big question that everyone's interested in is, what made you, I guess, start triathlon and then obviously progress into Ironman, really?
Well, I mean, we go back a long way, Hans, don't we? If you remember the early days when it was football, which was my big love, and it always was football as a kid, as most kids dream. Certainly, lads, they grow up to dream of being a professional footballer. I was living that dream for a long time. I left school, signed full-time terms with Burnley. Unfortunately, during that time, and I wouldn't mind saying it, I was a good player. Unfortunately, in my time when I was at Burnley, it's that period of being sort of 16, 17, 18, where you're growing a lot. I developed a lot of injuries, and it knocked me back. My development, it knocked me back, and it knocked me confidence a lot. So the period from leaving school and where I really should have flourished and developed, it was a period where I sort of went downhill. I went the opposite way. And then we sort of crossed paths, didn't we? So as I got released from Burnley, I was sort of 18, 19. I was then in a position where I needed to get in the big wide world, get a job. I wanted to go out and enjoy my life. And we crossed paths at semi-pro club, didn't we, Bamley Bridge?
Yeah.
And then that's where we sort of... our relationship developed with you helping me a lot with my ongoing problems, injuries I were having. And it was just that really. I sort of played non-league for a few years, but struggled to adapt to that sort of lower standard in a way because I could play at a higher level. I struggled in certainly that age as well physically. I was nowhere near what I am now. If I could have carried on playing possibly later into my 20s, I might have. But it was that, and then it combined with a lot of injuries, I eventually just fell out of love with football. As time went on, and I started my business with my brothers. It was taking up a lot of time, and I fell into running. Something I've always been decent at as a footballer. I was a box-to-box sort of midfielder, good engine. Joined the local running club, Blackman Harriers, cracking club. Really made me feel welcome. Got into running full as I do with everything I do. I fully commit, and that was it, full on. Within no long, I entered marathons. First marathon I ever did, 2 hours 45 in Amsterdam. Wow. So I had some decent potential at that. And at that point, probably, I mean, this could be a topic for a time for another topic conversation. But I started that in itself started developing my problems because I was so full on. I created some weight problems and all sorts of things mentally as well. And I got injured again through that. Quite serious injuries, stress fractures in my shin. Probably just doing too much running, trying to diet as well to get long, all sorts. But then it was when I was at a low point. The challenge just come into my mind. I come across it somehow with IronMan. Didn't know anything about it.
You didn't even do triathlon. You just went straight from.
Hadn't done a triathlon.
Okay.
Hadn't done a triathlon. Couldn't swim. Didn't even own a bike. But it was the challenge of it. This is like what probably most people like. It was the challenge of it. It wasn't a case of all it was about was completing it at that point. And this was the time I actually was in a pot with my foot. But what my thought process was because running is a constant impact of running. I seen it as a sort of way of cross training. And I need to exercise mentally. It's my release, as it is most people's. So I started to do a cycle on the exercise bike gym, and it allowed me to relieve the stress of my shins from the running. And then over time, I got into that a little bit, and I started to learn to swim. So it was the end of a particular year. I think it was the end of 2010. I entered an Ironman in 2011, and I said I hadn't done a triathlon. And it went from there. I quickly jumped straight into it as I do. Got a coach. I wanted to do it right, so I got a coach. He wasn't a very good coach, it turned out, but nevertheless, he did put me on the straight and narrow with certain things, certain mistakes. A lot of people do in the early days. I was able to sort of sidestep them. Did my first Ironman in Switzerland, and I was hooked. I'd achieved something, and it was like it gave me a huge boost of confidence. And I think I did like 11 hours, which was a good time for the first Ironman.
First Ironman, it's a really good time, yeah.
Yeah, and it was sort of, and then as it developed from that, I got my next coach, a guy called Mark Livesey, and he was a good coach, and he sort of found a bit of maybe I was not special, but I had something for the bike. On top of my running, my biking flourished very quickly. I was naturally a strong cyclist. So put the cycling and the running together, and then the development of my swimming. Before long, it took probably 2 years. I was winning races, local races, and I probably had my breakthrough at Bolton Ironman in 2013, where I qualified for Kona, first amateur, just totally out to the blue. Didn't expect it. Didn't know much about anything. Went to Kona and just it was all new. It was weird, but it's just all snowballed from there. Really, I've just got quite good at it, and I think, well, why stop now? Let's keep going to see where I can actually end.
And I think that's a nice thing about you, isn't it? That once having known you for a long time, you kind of face one challenge, and instead of being kind of sat back on your laurels and going, oh look what I've achieved, it's going, okay, so what's next? You've got that very strong drive, haven't you? Which, I've always admired. I'll be totally honest about you, because, it's not the easiest sport to do. And you've got this desire to keep pushing and pushing and pushing yourself, which I think for a lot of people is, some have got it and some don't have it. Even if they've got it, I think what you've just highlighted there, that, you've got to take the right steps to do it, haven't you? You invested in a coach quite early on in your career, and you took the steps to really look at going, well, how do I achieve this if I want to achieve this?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I've made it sound quite simple. There's a lot of ups and downs, obviously, along the way.
And I think we're going to explore them, aren't we? As we go on, but we have to talk about the up. Come on, let's get straight to it. What was it? What was it like to get that? That most crossing that line at Bolton to win that thing, that iconic picture, which you well know, it sits actually in the front of my clinic, of you with that banner,
Well, you've played a big part with it. See, a lot of people don't know. I mean, we can go for a long time, but to condense the story, there's quite a lot of emotion riding on this, because it's my home race. I'll go out here and say I'm the best supported guy on the day on that race, with knowing so many people who come out to support me. And basically, I'll go back 2 years when I had my best results at the time. I came fourth fastest bike split, and I think I just did over 9 hours, 9:00. Great. By far at that time, my best result. I mean, my uncle was there, I was very close with, who was he was dying at the time. He had cancer, and I vowed to him after the race to give him a big hug, and because at that time that was my best result. That was phenomenal, you know, coming fourth against some of them guys who were there at the time. And I said, I'm going to win this for you, Bri. He said, I know you will, lad. I know you will. So it stuck with me. So then the year after came, and I was training all year to win that race, and it could not have gone worse. It could not have gone worse. Last minute, they changed the swim to a non-wetsuit, which was absolutely nightmare for me. Nightmare, as any non-swimmer will tell you. Taking a wetsuit out at 10 minutes before, it's very, very tough. So it couldn't have gone much worse. Slowest swim I've ever done in my life. Got out freezing cold, punctured, and I punctured a second time. I punctured again and actually came off. Didn't finish. Disastrous. So I was at a low point, but it's coming through them periods where I didn't give up. It was as simple as that. So then another 12 months on, and 12 months of blood, sweat and tears, and then it was set for me to go and do it. It didn't all go perfect. I didn't actually have my best race on the day, but I did what I needed to do. And in the end, won it well. And like you said, it was that last 30 seconds of coming through the finish chute where all the emotions got let out that I actually done it. I know there's a lot of people who will achieve much bigger and better things, but for me, achieving that was just absolutely incredible. Incredible. A dream. I know it sounds a bit cheap, but it was a dream come true. It was a proper dream come true.
Well, listen, I think there's a few, again, your modesty comes through when you say people have achieved other things. You know, at the end of the day, for most people who watch the Ironman or take part of it, everyone understands, what an achievement that is, don't they? That is a phenomenal achievement. And as much as you might not give yourself as much credit, we're definitely going to give you the credit for it, because it is a phenomenal achievement. And like you've said there, what was interesting when we put this post out, the amount of people that were interested in you. You said you were the most supported person on the circuit at that time. And I think that's, I think it's a testament to you as a person, your modesty, but also that everyone can see, you wear your heart on your sleeve, don't you?
Yeah, I like to think so. I mean, I'm not the most talented person, as we know, but sometimes there's, I don't know what they call it. Sometimes you can be the favourite without being the best, can't you? People like to.
Well, I think
protect you.
If I'm totally honest, I think what people see in you is you're real, aren't you? There's no falsity about you. You haven't got there by luck. You've got there by really hard work and determination. And you kind of touched on the downsides of that. I know some of them for a lot, but during that journey, what other things have
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even mention sort of even coming into last year. I had an injury which was at one point close to finishing my career. I mean, it was, if it weren't for you guys, not just you guys at Summit, it weren't just a case of the physical aspect of it. Certainly you with the mental side and keeping me positive through some bad times. I mean, I don't know if people know the injury, but it turned into a navicular fracture, didn't it, of a bone in my foot.
And if people don't know,
a liberating problem.
And when people are unaware of what that means, is navicular fracture, the blood supply to the bones really quite poor. So the healing of that, in your case, it became a non-union, didn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, the options were looking like quite severe surgery, which, when we spoke to all the specialists, would have meant that's it. And your trainees up, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. It actually turned out, didn't it? It was, again, it's mad how things pan out, because it was having my child that actually was what made me force myself to have that time off, to give the injury the proper time it needed, on top of the rehab and the other bits of mechanical issues we had going on which needed addressing, which was one thing. But the actual injury, it was the birth of the best thing that's ever happened to me that created that time to heal it. So it does. It's funny how it all works. Yeah. So, you just got to not give up. Honestly, some of the stuff I had to do at times to just through the tough times, that injury, went to some dark places.
And I think, you know, as much as I'm sure I don't want to bring any of them up I think it's good for people to understand and hear that, you know, life hasn't been rosy for you. They'll see those bike times and bike splits, you know, that it's got to be when your results get posted. Let's be totally honest. I know most people that are aware of triathlon or Ironman, that's what they're looking for, aren't they? They want to, you know, let's be totally honest between me and you, because no one's listening, are they? They don't look at your swim split, do they? You know,
good job as well.
Pardon?
Good job.
They look at your bike split and they go, "Oh my gosh," you know.
Yeah. Well,
and that doesn't come just on its own, does it? That comes from an awful lot of attention, and there's been an awful lot of obstacles to get there.
Yeah. Well, we can touch on something with that, because I went against the grain with how I've developed my training. What it was, like I said, when I got into this sport, I'm never going to be a top swimmer. I haven't swum as a kid. I don't have the time to commit to be a 50-minute swimmer at this moment in time, especially. So my theory was probably 4 to 5 years ago was that, okay, and a lot of people, I fell out with people who were trying to advise me in different ways, but I had the running background, which was solid. I was a solid runner. Not brilliant, but a solid to where I was. But there's no doubt, as an Ironman amateur, especially as an amateur athlete, the biking is the biggest proportion of your Ironman. It's got to be strong, and it's not just. I also know people who think they run, but if you're not strong on the bike, doesn't matter how fast you can run stand alone. You're crippled when you get onto a run. It comes down to the bike. So what I did, I went against things, and I thought and I was good on the bike just by quite naturally. I got that to a level, but I thought, well, okay. Just say, for example, I'm one of the amateurs' best cyclists at this moment in time. So 5 years ago, I thought, well, that's without focusing on it. So let's just see where we can go if I focus on it. And that's what I did. So I feel like I put that up to a level of probably good pro level, develop my running off the back of that to keep that strong, and just my swimming just has to develop naturally, and it will do. It will keep improving my swimming. That's just I have to be patient with that. But that was my theory on how to get where I am, and I feel like it's paid off. And that's now what I put into my coaching. I feel, and I have a genuine belief in that. You have to have a strong bike focus as an amateur Ironman athlete. It's the key to success.
And I think that's a really nice thing. Again, it comes back to, you know, we'll touch on that you just mentioned about your coaching, that you've now you've kind of transitioned to that. And we do have at the end of this interview, as much as you want, just some of your athletes that you've coached have asked some questions, so we'll drop them in later. Don't worry. But, you know, let's touch on that, because I think that's quite nice, is now you've taken all this stuff that you've learned and developed, you found what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and now you're applying it and helping others.
Absolutely. I've made every mistake in the book. I really have, and I've tried different things, and so I like to be able to. I mean, I was lucky as well. I know people have been doing triathlon for 20 years. They're still making the same mistakes now as what they did 20 years ago, and they're scratching their heads and understanding why. It amazes me. But I can, doing Ironman, you as much as I try and pass on my expertise, you're going to learn as you do them. There's no doubt. But with my past and my experience, I can pass that on a lot and save people a lot of time. Marketing in Ironman is rife with new. You can spend so much money and it's all worthless. You can get sucked into things and all sorts. And I can pass on that experience. I've been there, done it. I've got the full-time job. I've got the young family now, and it can be done. I know it because I'm not being big-headed, but I prove it with my results that it can be done, and you can compete at a high level. You know, no disrespect to these pros they can't relate to a working guy who's got 3 kids and can only cram in sort of 8-9 hours a week training tops. So I feel like I've got an Easter. I really do. Alongside Tony and the guys at TRIcentraluk, we know what we're doing. And it's going really well. It's proven that. And it proved that last year with the results TRIcentraluk UK lads had. We absolutely dominated.
Mate, and you know what? And I think everybody, you know, for those that I know that have know you and you've been coached by you, back that up. For me, that knows you, you know, I know you're very analytical, aren't you? How you think about things and how you can do stuff. So I think the ability for them to pass that on to other people is almost essential, isn't it? And I think a lot of people that are taking on Ironman or are looking to make that next step or to make it, you know, it's definitely something that they definitely benefit from.
And the thing is as well, a lot of people complicate it. I keep it very simple. You've got to keep things simple. You can overcomplicate so much. And the biggest thing of all, and I'll have to say, you've been one of the biggest people that have installed this in me and helped me when I've had some tough times. You've got to do it with a big smile on your face and enjoy it. Because if you're not enjoying it, there's no future in it. It's a means to an end. It's got to be your life. It's got to become to be good. This is to be good. To just do one and achieve that goal, fine. You can graft it out. But to actually keep improving and enjoy it, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to make it a big part of your life. It's got to become your life, in a healthy, like a healthy way.
I mean, I totally agree. You know my philosophy that everything you should be done with a smile on your face, and you know, only do things that you actually really, really want to do and you enjoy doing. So, but one of the things that I'm always curious. I mean, I'm sure everyone's curious. I mean, we have this conversation quite regularly, but you know, for a lot of people out there, they are training at high intense level. You know, you've even got I like that. He's even got his rehab band in his hand where we're talking about injury prevention.
You see that? I'm doing stretching all the time. I never stop.
And again, that's something so there's lots of people out there, you know, the classic Ironman thing is, for training for an Ironman is, we do our swim, we do our bike, we do our run, right? Okay, there's a shake of the head here. So to allow you to compete at such a high level consistently, you know, what are you doing behind the scenes that most people probably aren't doing? Well, there's any of your deepest, darkest secrets, obviously, but, you know, what tips could be given people that are the simplest things, like you said, that they could be doing to keep away from the likes of us and getting injured?
Well, it's a case of working with you guys. It's not maybe a case of keeping away from. It's working with you. I mean, I've been religious this year with Adam. We've been looking. So I mean, we're all suffering with this issue we've got at the moment. But I've been planning and making changes this year to come back in a big way. You know, I'll work with Andy every week. With yourself and with Adam, strength and conditioning, working on the hips and loosening them off. And certainly with me, you know, with my shoulder restriction, it's just daily trying to get them more mobile. But the biggest key and the biggest thing that holds people back is staying injury free and staying healthy. So it all comes down to consistency. I have not, with the illnesses and injuries I've had over the last 6 years, I've not missed more than 2 consecutive days of training, if that. And that's just through training right and just keep making it a big part of your life. Them little runs, them little recovery runs every day, every week, every week, they count. Yeah. They all add up to you improving. There's no session that gets one session that gets the results. It's hundreds of sessions, hundreds of hours of training that get the results.
I think that's the thing. You know, one of the things I've always admired about you is you are very consistent with that, aren't you? You don't, you know, miss a session. Just for those people that are worried about strength conditioning, and just explain what the kind of stuff you've been doing with Adam, because I mean, I get to see it, but I think for most people to realize, you know, what kind of, because there's there's a big thing within endurance sport that everyone's afraid to lift load. Or I don't need to lift anything heavy, or I shouldn't do this and stuff. Just explain to people kind of what you've been doing with Adam, just to kind of...
Well, the theory with Adam this year was actually having someone working alongside. I mean, I've always done strength and conditioning. I've always been big on it myself. But this was the first time I wanted to do it properly with a plan. So we did it in phases. We started off with a hypertrophy, sort of reps up to 12. And we've developed it, and we were coming into the race season now, sort of into 4 months into the year. We was finishing off with the plyometrics, with the real fast stuff, and unfortunately, it's not come to fruition because of what's happened. So we're really I was really excited to see how it would go. I mean, it's been tough. It's been tough. We both had to commit, 6 o'clock in the morning, getting to the gym and doing it. But Adam committed to me, so I had to commit to him. Yeah. And I've loved it. I've really enjoyed it. And we were making some big gains. Some good weights were being lifted.
And that's what I was, again, and the fact that, actually, there was some, if you ever saw some of the Instagram posts that Adam posted, there was some quite significant load on that bar, wasn't there? You're pulling some distance.
Yeah, I like to think so. Certainly power to weight from a weight. Yeah. And probably somehow that comes in and around the bouts with me biking. It certainly contributes. But the biggest thing of all of it, it's not about lifting weight. I mean, I always believe that as an athlete, you've got to be careful with the strength and conditioning. It's got to complement. Ultimately, to become a better triathlete, you've got to swim, back and run. They've got to come first. But your strength and conditioning's got to complement them. Yeah. So there's no point in coming out of the gym and not being able to walk for 3 days, so you can't bike or run properly. Yeah. It needs a bit of common sense applying. Don't get me wrong. Your first session back after a while, you can get the DOMs, and there's a bit of a conditioning period where you've just got to get through. But it's a huge factor, and it comes back to staying injury free. Like I said, apart from the but the navicular fracture, what I had wasn't a. It was one of those things. I probably developed over years. But in terms of touch wood, ongoing injuries and niggles, apart from the odd thing you've got to just manage daily, I haven't missed a session for years.
I think that does come down to, and one of the big things I can take away from this is the fact of what you're very good at doing is taking advice and listening, aren't you? One of the big things is you don't go on.
No, it's true. I listen to anyone and everyone. But what I also do, what you've got to be careful of, what I found is I got to a period early on, just I said, going back to my first coach. He had his ideas initially, and I sucked it all in like a sponge. It gets to a point where you think you've got to question everyone as well, because you've got to think, what's their expertise? Are they telling you, like, for example, if you're a 3-hour marathon runner, you've got to be skeptical if you're taking advice off a 4-hour marathon runner. I'm not.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Understand. Yeah.
I'll have plenty of IronMan triathletes giving me advice and stuff, and they'll be telling me, and I respect them. I sit and listen, but you've also got to listen. Think, hang on a minute. I've been doing it 2 minutes. You've been doing it 20 years, and you unfortunately, facts are facts. You've never been at my level, so I've got to be. I'll take on you on board, but I'll also pick out of their advice what I feel is necessary and what's not. So sometimes it's not a case of actually taking off. I found one of my big things, learning from people's mistakes.
Yeah.
More than actually what their advice is, if that makes sense.
It is, and I also think one of the things, I do admire also is that, even when we try and get you to do stuff, the first thing you'll do is, why? You want
and that's not being disrespectful.
No, it's not. It's not.
Well, you like that, though.
I respect that, and that's what I was trying to get across. And I think people need to do that more. I was almost saying, I think that's one of the strengths that you've got is the fact if you won't just listen to, what you will do is you'll take in all the facts, you'll absorb it, and go, yeah, okay, that works in my world of how I can apply that.
I think as well, it makes you if you anything you do, if you believe in it.
Yeah.
Then that is so powerful. And again, something you're big on. And that's why I know you like to explain to me. When I ask, you go deep into explaining the reasons. And once I've grasped it and understand it and believe in it, we're on to a winner.
Well, that's what a teamwork is all about, isn't it? In the sense of, I'm only as good as you, because if you don't do it, you're not going to get the gains. And if you don't do it, then things don't change. Yeah. So, it is that communication. That's something. Massive. So, no, I think that, do you know what? And that's why, I like working with you, and I think people like watching you and listening to you, because I think, you are that kind of, that analytical person that analyzes stuff. But I think that what I take from that is more people need to be doing that more, don't they? They need to kind of be taking a bit more control and seeing what works.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong sometimes. Sometimes what works for one person won't work for another. It's
nice to hear that from you, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people get disappointed when they try things and it doesn't work out they intended. and unfortunately in sports science and in anatomy and physiology and adaptations, we all do adapt differently. If it's nutrition, if it's training loads, if it's training styles. So I think the nice thing is, from someone like yourself who's tried and tested lots of different things, you then eventually work out what works for you and what you're comfortable with.
Totally.
So we're going to go to some questions, if it's all right, from what we've been asked. So
yeah.
Mr. Steve Livesley has asked, any tips for race day? So obviously race day is something a lot of people kind of they can get nervous at the start, or there can be parts of the race that go well. Is there any tips that you could give people to kind of, how do you mentally kind of stay strong or adapt during a race?
Right. Firstly, a couple of things actually I find are big things. Don't overeat the night before. Don't overeat and don't change anything, because there's nothing more stressful on the morning of a big race. You've overeaten the night before and you need to go to the toilet, and you've got, that's a big factor in racing. People, it's very stressful as well. So keep your routine going into the race. That works for me. Stay calm, plan, prepare, go through everything in your head many times. Just make it so it becomes second nature. So all the trivial things, make a mark where your bike is, where your transition is, go through your bike. Just go over it in your head constantly. So it's the more you do it, the more you go over it in your head, the more confident you'll be that there won't be any problems. Embrace it. Just embrace all the training you've put in, and what you're going to get out of it, and just enjoy it. But definitely plan, and just go over everything in your head of what needs to be done, and that gives you confidence, I find.
During a race, if anything goes wrong, obviously you mentioned that you've had a couple of tyre issues. How do you cope with stuff like that?
Well, it's something I've got better at, and I believe, I'm not putting myself in here as being good, but all the best athletes in the world, they've all got one thing in common, is they can adapt. They adapt to all sorts of adversity throughout the race. No Ironman goes plain sailing. Never. There's always something throughout that day that's going to go wrong or go slightly different than what you plan. And it's how you adapt. Some people, it just crumbles. They just crumble. They just can't cope. Some people can't cope with the actual race. There's so many athletes out there, better trainers than they are races, because the race, stress, pressure, whatever, they just can't. They can't up the game to it. Others sort of the opposite. But yeah, you've got to be able to adapt, and you've got to put things into perspective in your head, and maybe sometimes go through, visualize things if they do go wrong, and I've backup plans to if things don't go to plan. If you lose, big one is if you lose your nutrition. If your bottle comes out early on, it's happened to me, early races, it's fallen out. Do I stop? Do I not? And have things preset in your mind of what you are going to do. Quite often you can eradicate the problems that way, and it's quite refreshing, and you feel confident knowing that you've got a backup plan.
I think that's a brilliant tip there. Adrian Sharrock asked, how long would either you or build up to an Ironman event? And what intensity? So if you've got an Ironman planned, what can you build up, or what would you advise maybe somebody who is, because you're a 24/7, 365 days athlete, aren't you? So for the man maybe who was doing the Ironman, what would you say the build up to one would be?
Yeah, good question, Eddie. Right, well, basically, how I see it, as an amateur, I don't think pros can finish, say, for example, they'll finish the key race a year, and they'll have 2 months off. And that's fine for a guy or a woman that's training 30 hours a week. They can soon build the fitness back up, and before long, they're back up to full pace. As an amateur, for me, I don't feel I can do that both physically and mentally. It's hard. You start putting weights on. So I'll give myself, I don't give myself that much time off. I don't get back into the full swing that quick, but I'll soon be back moving and ticking over. So I work along a period, like a sort of, I'll say, for example, I'll have these 12 hours a week consistently. So I'm always fit. I'm always working on things. I'm always developing. I'm showing my power. And that enables me to sort of be competitive at anything up to Olympic distance and half Ironman distance within no time. I call it, I'll get my Ironman hat on, sort of 12 weeks out, and that's when I'll start just putting in the longer rides, putting in the longer runs, building up my mileage. But I'm going into that from a good foundation. I'm already fit going into that, so I feel like you can absorb it a lot easier. I get to a point after 10 weeks, and I need to race because I've put the training in, and I need to recover. Then I need to go. But I couldn't keep that intensity for them and that volume up for much more than that. And that's how I work it. That works for me. Again, people are different, but that's what works for me. I can get my hat on, my Ironman hat on, 12 weeks, and I can up things. I get my long rides in, the longer bikes in, and I know I'm ready in 3 months to race.
An anonymous one. What's the best recovery tip? So how do you recover from, because obviously you're training quite high intensity. What do you do to kind of recover or let your body kind of heal a bit?
Well, in terms of nutrition, I use the OTE nutrition. So I'll have every session pretty much. I'll have a recovery drink on hand. So it's hitting your system quick. You're getting all the carbs, protein you need within an hour. You want to be eating a meal. Nutrition is key, but a recovery drink after pretty much every session is what I do. Just have a good diet. Yourselves get regular massage. Do your strength mobility, your rehab. That's something I've been working with you guys, and I was really looking forward to pushing it in the hyperbaric chamber. Huge benefits. Keeping on top of your niggles. You can do your bits of foam rolling and stretching. Doesn't particularly work for me. It's not something I'm big on, but if I'll give it a shot now and again. But yeah, pretty much. But just training consistently will allow you to if you have your sessions right, you won't have too many hard sessions next back to back. You will have a recovery session, and it's doing it right. And that way, after a period of time, it becomes quite easy.
There's someone I believe you know quite well, Karen Driver.
Yeah, Coach Karen. Yeah, top athlete.
She just wants to know, do you like gardening? And the reason why she asks this, because she's noticed on a few other Instagram posts, there's quite a few weeds in your garden.
Well, tell her to look at the next one, because we got a gardener in the other day, so it's a lot better.
I promised her I'd ask that question, so yeah, she'll be happy to know that the next video is going to be.
Tell the garden's in a lot better nick at the moment.
And the final question from Mark Varley. So one of the things he wrote was, given that you've had this epic rise to becoming the UK champion, would you ever consider writing a book, but not in the same way as what other people have done from kind of zero to Kona, but from the focus that, you are still a business owner, you are a family man, you are a local lad, and you've still got that. Is there anything you would start to, consider writing a book about your kind of...
I'm far from finished yet. So I think if I could reach some, the long-term goals that I plan to, who knows? I certainly wouldn't be writing it. I'd be... I could give the information. I mean, there's a lot more to me than obviously what we can discuss in this interview, in terms of ups and downs and stuff. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Yeah, it would, but not at this stage. I've got a lot more to accomplish yet.
It's only half the book's only filled. Yeah, is that?
Yeah, I think so.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. Honestly, it's been good fun. I think there's been absolutely some fantastic nuggets in there for people to take away. I still stick with the fact that, you are one of the most dedicated and modest people I know. I know you now, the idol of your life is now fast asleep beside you. And, that smile that since you come in your life has grown. It's a pleasure knowing you and your family and stuff. And I really thank you for your time, mate. So I really appreciate you giving this up today.
Hey, mate, it's a pleasure. I always look forward to seeing you in person and get back cracking.
All right, my good friend. Well, listen, you take care of yourself, and we'll speak very, very soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.